everyone. Welcome back to another episode of I Can Do This All Day. I'm Dan, the part-time Avenger. That's Mark, the Resident Jedi.
Hello there. When the Christmas lights are so bright you gotta wear sunglasses inside, there is one movie that we're watching this Christmas, and it is a classic from the 90s. The wonderfully impactful movie to the Star Wars universe that gave us the potentially great acting performance of one Jake Lloyd. And in this movie, he was supported by everybody's favorite dad, Arnold. Of course, we're talking about the 1996 classic Jingle All the Way.
I had no idea where the hell you were going with that synopsis, because didn't Star Wars come after this?
It came after this. This is the movie that got Jake Lloyd the job.
Okay. All right. Well,
there's
good
so much
man.
to talk about just in the Jake Lloyd portion of it.
There is. But Jingle All the Way, starring the Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that's why the sunglasses are on, because it's festive and badass at the same time. So I got my Santa hat, got the sunglasses, and I also don't want to spoil any potential hints at what my answer will be at the end of this movie. So I think I'm going to have my sunglasses on and just try and hide my facial expressions, maybe eye rolls, maybe eye brightening stuff. But yeah, it's all good. The Terminator's in the house, and we're here to talk about it. Let's talk about the origin. Mark, where did you see this movie? When did you see it?
So I look at this when I was a kid as the dad from Commando being in a movie playing a dad. I saw this first, not in the theater, in the 90s. I was getting toys. I was not going to the theater a ton, especially during this like junior high period for me. So I saw it first, I'm sure on like some cable channel or something like that, right? And loved it, and have seen it many times. It is in my must watch, and one of the holy grails that I have yet to put in my collection is a pristine boxed Turbo Man. But I loved it from the beginning. I identified with this movie right away, and I was hugely excited. Arnold at this point, bigger than anything. What about you? I mean, you grew up on Terminator, like it was your babysitter at home. How did you feel about a movie where he brandished no weapons and took no lives?
Didn't care, didn't want to see it, did not see it. And it wasn't until the ripe old age of 40. So I saw this last year with my family and watched it again for the podcast. So it's I'm for all the listeners and viewers, I did not have a childhood. All right, at least the stereotypical childhood. My favorite movies were all R-rated. Excuse me, R-rated movies growing up. So this is something that, as Arnold started to sway into other genres, I was like, why? Why don't you just take a 12 gauge and just blast some people away? I'll be happy. And it just, yeah. So any of the comedies didn't really strike me. I did appreciate them, but it wasn't like, yeah, I want to go see that in the movie theaters. So wasn't until 40, and here we are talking about it.
I feel like it was a completely different landscape. Like go see it in the movie theater was like only reserved for the best of the best, depending on, where you were at and what your folks did and all that, and the availability of movie theaters. But man, Arnold comedies were a blockbuster staple, or a Hollywood Video staple. So many good things. It pains me when you say that you shied away from the Arnold comedies. I cannot think of a more quotable movie than Kindergarten Cop. Like, come on. That was
a great movie.
I mean, come on. There is no bathroom. What are you talking about? Oh, such a great...
I'm not a deputy, I'm a princess. It's like such a good movie. So yeah, I like that one, but that was the exception. Everything else, I was like, nah, I'm good.
Give me examples of the ones where you're like, meh, nah.
Twins, I actually saw in theater, but I was like, I don't want to go see Twins.
Wait a minute. You were not old enough to get Twins. Neither was I. Like, the jokes were a little more highbrow than for kids.
He didn't have a
Have you seen
shotgun or
it
a machine
lately?
gun. Yeah.
You still feel the same way?
Yeah. I mean, I will hands down go after a bad action Arnold's movie over a good comedy movie, with the exception of Kindergarten Cop. Kindergarten Cop, I'll watch right now. I'll sign off this podcast and go watch it right now. It's a great movie. I love it. But yeah, it's just not my preference for Arnold.
Oh, that makes me sad because you miss out on so much. Like, oh, what else? What other Arnold comedies do you dislike?
Junior, never saw it.
Oh,
I saw
Junior's
parts of it and I
great.
was just like, nah, sorry.
Mm.
My Terminator doesn't get pregnant, so
Oh, he did. He did. He had the baby. Oh
my
man.
sensitive nipples. Like no, it's
And
if
he
there
had
was
the
like nonstop like vulgar jokes, I would for sure sign up for it. But no, I like my Terminator with a shotgun.
Oh, that makes me sad. Those are
I
those
love
are
it.
great. I even think Last Action Hero is like a borderline comedy. And
Oh, it's
he
for sure
hits
a comedy.
so many great points in that movie. True Lies too. He brings some really great comedy chops.
Yeah, but
Like,
that's not a comedy movie. It's funny, but it's not a straight up comedy movie. It's not like, 40-Year-Old Virgin, but that is a another great movie, but that's still action at its core. But I will ask you, so there is a fight scene in this movie. Does that make it an action movie?
I mean, there's an explosion in this movie too, but I think this is a delightful holiday comedy that
But it's
has a
not an
few,
action movie.
and no, not at all.
Okay. I want to throw that out there because before you had said that, well, if there's staff and stunt people doing these scenes, then it's an action movie. You did say that for another movie. So I'm just want to throw out that the hypocrisy is strong. And yeah, we're okay. We're okay.
I
We're
don't
we're in the
think that
same
was the
thing.
case.
It absolutely was.
Well, you're just
Because
gonna have to insert that footage, and uh,
I don't
and
need
I
to
don't
because I
know.
know I'm right. I
That's
know I'm
fine. You,
right.
I hope you know.
But this movie is not great when it comes to the ratings. So we got a 5.7 IMDb, 20% Rotten Tomatoes, 34% Metacritic. I don't think it's that bad.
Oh no, this movie is right up my alley. Whenever all three of those are that low, I mean, there's a 85% chance that I'm gonna love it.
I think that with these ratings of the movie, and it wasn't necessarily a box office flop. It did take some time for it to recoup its money. It had like a budget of 75 million, and I think it ended up with like 120 some million or whatever, or making 120 some million. So it wasn't like a disaster, but because of the critics panning it and everything, I think that's why this movie is viewed as just like an awful, awful movie. Um, but for me, Arnold can do no wrong, so I'll watch it. I'll enjoy it.
I do watch it and I do enjoy it. And there's also a lesser talked on actor in this that I think well there's I think the whole cast is kind of sleepery, right? Because you've got just a smorgasbord of excellence, right? In like marginal comedy or just way too good to be background actors, right? First of all, you've got Sinbad in this. And this was like a little after Sinbad's real hot streak in the early 90s when he was chunking Disney movies like it was his job, right? I'm thinking like First Kid and all those like, early Sinbad. Oh, I'm great for kids movies.
I
That one
don't know of
genie
any
movie that nobody
movies.
talks about. What?
I don't know of any movies besides First Kid that Sinbad was in, and except for Necessary Roughness, who he was like a supporting character in that.
Yeah, well, he also made a Shazam before Shaq's Shazam that
No,
got
he didn't. He definitely
oh, he
didn't.
did. Oh, he did.
No,
There's
he
video
didn't.
cassettes of it.
I'll bet you. I'll bet you right now he
I,
didn't.
I'm I think that you just have to ask the internet. If you
Yeah,
Google it,
and
you'll figure it out.
and the answer is no. He never was
Um,
in a movie
Agree to
called
disagree.
Shazam.
Agree to disagree. And the other things I think you're forgetting Sinbad was in was like Coneheads, Meteor Man. He had his own TV series um for 24 episodes. That's the good stuff. He also was in Good Burger and now Good Burger 2. Talk about a movie that's probably never making the podcast.
Never saw it, but I always thought it was funny um, that they had trailers for that movie. Because why would you spend the time making a trailer for a movie that is probably just that awful?
Which one? Good Burger?
Yeah, Good Burger.
I mean, big fan of Keenan, not a fan of Kel. And for that reason, I'm out. Uh, but
There's some
then
good. I mean, Phil Hartman. Phil
the
Hartman
unsung
is
hero of this movie and a 90s Titan, Phil Hartman. Like, so much of my childhood is Phil Hartman.
he
All of the
is
Simpsons characters.
one of my favorite SNL
Oh,
people of all time.
number two for me. Number two.
Number two, really?
Number
Wow.
two.
Who's number one?
Dan Aykroyd.
Eek. He wasn't even that great on SNL though.
Uh, agree to disagree.
Every bit that he was in where it was funny, it was usually because someone else.
Who?
Steve Martin.
Well, you're talking about Dan Aykroyd?
Yeah.
I refer you to Super Bassomatic, sir.
Never remember that skit at
You
all.
you need to just Google it, put it in. There's a
I'll
link to
I'll
it.
Google it when you will pay up on the fact that Sinbad was in a movie called Shazam.
Also, in this cast, unsung Rita Wilson. Like, I'm like, what is Rita Wilson doing in this movie?
But I don't think Rita Wilson's an unsung hero in this. I think she's just kind of there. I think she falls victim to like the whole 90s female that we need to have a female mom, wife in there. And that was pretty much it. So I didn't think she did much of anything. The only thing that she did was deny Phil Hartman's character, Ted, and his advances, which once again,
Yeah,
that's a perfect example of like the only reason Rita Wilson would be worthy of talking about it in this movie is the fact that she denies Ted. And it's really all Phil Hartman's performance as to why
I,
her character is somewhat important in this
well,
entire thing.
that and the fact that all of the people that Phil Hartman's reactions to things in this movie and all of the like the moms that are hitting on him through this, that they just throw it out there. You're just like, and if you're a kid, you're like, oh, he's really helpful. And if you're an adult, like, yeah, I'm sure he is.
Yeah. Oh god, that was one of my favorite things. And
It
so
was so subtle but great.
just a favorite bit, right? Like that's something where like Phil Hartman is trying to fuck everybody. Every mom on that in that
That kid's like,
subdivision.
the little kid's like, Dad's been so great since mom left. He's been in an amazing mood.
He's it's just so comical because
Oh man.
I wonder if there are people like that out there that's just like, yep, all right, I'm gonna try to nail everyone. I know that there's people out there that are womanizers and everything, but the sheer gall that it takes to be at a school and openly just like hitting on people and the obviously the women love him, right? But it's just so comical because Phil Hartman always just seems like a dirtbag.
Yeah. He's Troy McClure. Um,
You may remember him from such
yeah.
movies as
And then there's also like a bunch of sleepers in this. So Robert Conrad, who plays the motorcycle cop who's constantly running into Arnold in this, he was the original Jim West from the Wild Wild West TV show. Like, it was just such a subtle casting of, I mean, why don't we get this lawman to do it? And like, it's a put up for all the parents to be like, I know that guy.
yeah, there's quite a bit of that, right? And then Curtis Armstrong from Revenge of the Nerds. Booger was my favorite character from Revenge of the Nerds just because he was so
Yes.
gross. And hey, can't forget about Paul White, the Big Show, aka the Giant. But he was another pleasant cameo in this movie. When my son saw him, I was like, "Oh, it's the Big Show." Yeah, it is the Big Show, buddy.
I mean, Martin Mull and Jim Belushi, also huge like actors in the 80s, bit parts in this, right? The radio DJ and the slimy Santa. And then my favorite, a crossover from an earlier episode, his second or maybe more foray into Christmas excellence, and that's Harvey Korman was in this movie.
Did you know Lorraine Newman was in this too, as the
I
first
did.
lady?
The president and the first lady were like Hollywood royalty.
Yeah. And I mean, we can go down the cast list, right? I mean, you got Vern Troyer in there as well, Mini Me, Chris Parnell from SNL, and Rick and Morty. Just a lot of really great people. And then Danny Woodburn, who was also really a big character in Seinfeld, which was really cool. But
Yeah, I
Jake Lloyd,
loved the fact that he was the elf. Loved.
I want to talk about Jake Lloyd for a second. So I know we've talked about this. We may have even talked about this on the podcast during a Star Wars episode, but with him being in this movie, I thought he did a good performance. I thought Jake Lloyd was great in this. I thought, like, how did he go from that type of performance to the shittiest performance,
3
supposedly,
years
allegedly?
later, this
Yeah,
was
like,
this came out 3 years before Phantom Menace. And I think in this movie, Jake Lloyd emoted, he showed unhappiness, he showed joy, he did action Karate Man, like he did things and acted like an actor would as a child, like pretty decent. And I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna be controversial, but I really believe it because I'll tell you, I watched this the other night and I'm like, God damn, Jake Lloyd's good in this. What? And I turned on episode 1 and I'm like, was it that bad? And it is. It's
yeah.
so bad. And there's really only one explanation for why Jake Lloyd is so good in this movie and so bad in episode 1. George Lucas.
He is not a really great director.
Not at all. Like, and if you look at it, the first Star Wars movie that he directed, Mark Hamill was terrible in. Like, so many, if they didn't get like the royalty of the British cinema, like there would have been a lot of poor acting going on, right? Harrison Ford, just a natural. Like that's like, Picasso came and painted. Of course it's amazing. And Carrie Fisher, also Hollywood royalty. Like everybody else was in a suit and going, but it's so bad. And then you come back to the prequels, and after seeing the sequels, I have much love for the prequels. Don't get me wrong, they're way better. But Lloyd, even Hayden Christensen was good before Star Wars. The only thread that pulls through all those bad performances, George.
What about Arnold's performance in this? Do you think it's too campy for him, or do you think it's just like right on the money as to what he should be and what he was trying to go for?
You're my number one customer. I thought it was over the top and exactly how Arnold should act in comedy movies. You can't be serious dad with the Austrian accent. It sounds like you're gonna fucking murder people. Like it sounds like it just doesn't give a good impression. But I mean, Arnold's doing this because it's fun, right? And they're making light and they're making pretend, and I couldn't love it more. Did you? I'm assuming you hated it.
No. I mean, I have a problem with some campiness when it comes to like okay, I'm gonna be campy and it's just gonna be over the top. Like Jim Carrey for me is just as great of a physical comedy actor as he is, and the way he performs, it's admirable, but it's just not my preference. Like I'm not a big fan of Jim Carrey's acting in a lot of things, and even his comedy. It's fun. He's funny. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like crapping on his entire catalog. I love a lot of his movies, but a lot of the jokes fall flat for me because I'm like, oh, yep, it's Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey. I feel the same way about Will Smith in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like, it's a great show, but I think I like that show better because of the cast around Will Smith as opposed to Will Smith, because it's just like, yep, he's doing that thing again. I didn't find it funny, but they just keep on doing it like every episode. So
So
that's kind
you
of
and Ben
where I
Affleck
land.
sleeping on Will Smith, bro. You and Affleck sleeping on Will Smith. I'm gonna tell you this about the Fresh Prince. That was a rapper playing an actor, and I thought it's amazing.
Okay. It's okay.
Oh,
I'm just telling you what I think about like that particular performance. It's just
I
not my thing.
you got me with the Fresh Prince, man. Don't we can slap Will Smith in the face all we want right now, but that early career, just there's a reason that he got on the pedestal that he fell from.
It's Jada. That's what that's the whole reason, right?
No, no, that's the reason the pillar fell down, right? But the ascent was not Jada.
The ascent was Fresh Prince for sure. I'm just saying he was not the best part about that show. Carlton, Uncle Phil, Jeffrey, for sure,
Are you
the
just
best
talking about
parts
a
of that
pitch
show.
perfect performance that the silhouette, it's the only thing that you know?
I
Is that the
mean,
reference you're making right now?
how many people are doing the getting jiggy with it dance compared to the Carlton?
Um,
Carlton will
it
live.
depends on what it does live on. It does live on. Alfonso Ribeiro, the greatest physical comedian in television history. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying he made that show better. That's all. Just like for this, I for Arnold's, I think he did a good performance. There was some really good funny parts to it. It's just for me the a lot of the humor definitely is better coming from Sinbad, Phil Hartman, Belushi. Like that. That's just my personal opinion on it. Arnold's
You know
funny
what
in
I
it. Don't
did?
get me wrong. It's just it's better from the comedians. That's all.
What I thought was really great about this movie is in the casting. I mean, I know they're big names, but I think they also matched up Arnold well. Like Sinbad, not a little guy,
Yeah,
not a
yeah,
little guy at all. So they had a presence where they could be close together and still be like somewhat equally matched, right? Like Arnold has an amazing physique, but Sinbad's still a bigger guy. Even Belushi is tall. And then they found somebody taller than him to actually be somewhat intimidating, right? Because this isn't like 80s fully Conan'd out Arnold, right? It's slimmed down nearing the governor's mansion Arnold, but still like it's I thought the casting really gave you that. And I think because of the size equality in this movie, um the funny was funny, and you weren't like that could never, like the fact that they could wrestle around Sinbad and Arnold, like you could totally see it. Like I think that those hits could be realistic.
sure. And I think that so I want to talk about like the favorite bits, which happen to be like the most inappropriate bits for me.
Yeah, I'm not
So
surprised.
right off the bat, Sinbad, like the first thing that I noticed that was just like super inappropriate was Sinbad choking a bitch. Like as they're waiting outside, he's like choking her, and like everyone's cool with it. Like no one says a single word about it. It's just like, oh, it's a mailman just doing mailman things. And like the
He's got a
woman was
gun
just like
somewhere.
afraid to
Leave him
do.
alone. Be nice. Poor
Yeah,
mailman.
it's
He should go to the front of the line.
unreal. I mean, did you think the same thing? Like, oh, he's choking her like right now.
I think that if you look back on some of the decisions for some of the physical comedy, that it definitely crosses some lines. Like that the bit the piece where Arnold thinks it's a good idea to chase a child through a playground and yell my balls, she's got my ball in her mouth. Like this is in poor taste at this point. But I mean, I think that 80s and 90s comedies like all age equally bad. There's nothing that you look at from then now that you're just like, oh, it's so clean and perfect. I mean, Back to the Future, the most perfect movie ever, still like has a couple swear words and some inappropriate incest scenes. So
The humor and everything, like I love that inappropriate sense of humor. But even for me, it was just kind of like, wow, I'm just surprised they did some of this. And yeah, it was the 90s, but even the 90s, it was they were starting to tone down on some of that stuff, right? So the full on, and I love the fact that it's so realistic of how it used to be for shopping. like the full-on assault and battery in the toy store. Like back in the day when we would see like riots at Walmart for like Black Friday. Like
Dude,
that's a real thing. And they definitely took the piss out of this one to show that.
that's not even the piss. That's like legit for some things. Like absolutely legit. But I mean, that still happens now. Like you look at some of the stuff you've got on the wall behind you, some of those new Marvel release figures at times, like people rip through Walmart to get that stuff on release days.
But the
Walmart,
sad
nobody really does. COVID stopped like midnight releases and stuff, but like, have you ever stood in a line for something the day it comes out, like for releases?
Yeah, never an issue.
Hmm.
The big thing for me is like that stuff doesn't happen for toys anymore. What it happens is just like normal run-of-the-mill things that you do during the day, like going to McDonald's. Like what the fuck is wrong with people? Like you have people assaulting and just battering people that are working behind the counters. And of course, what do? They retaliate because like I don't have to put up with their shit.
How
So
get
just
paid enough for
imagine
this?
at like the peak height of toy ridiculousness and greed and trying to just pick up all the toys and resell them. That's that still happens, but not not many fights. They wait to
No,
go to McDonald's or Wendy's and then they
yeah,
fight
no.
there.
But dude, I remember working retail back in the day. I worked the first like four iPhone launches, and they did get progressively less nuts. But those first ones, man, like I don't know why it's okay that you sit outside of a store without a security guard for 16 hours, knowing that behind that glass, you just go get the thing. Like, you know,
What's more ridiculous though? People waiting for like an iPhone like that, or people waiting for like a restaurant opening up in their town where they camp out for like days before. Restaurant or materials? What's more ridiculous?
I gotta say, restaurant to me,
Agreed. I mean, you're gonna get fed eventually. You don't have to camp out.
no, not at all. You really want to
Like
wait in that
people,
line?
yeah,
Like,
people don't even really like waiting in line for like rides. They do it, but why would you wait for a restaurant when you know that when you go there, it'll probably just be like a 2 hour wait? You know,
yeah,
like that's it's okay. Just deal with it, dude. Like you don't have to camp out.
yeah, no. I personally like don't go back to restaurants where it's a 2 hour wait until I like I'll go on a Tuesday night. Like weekends are not my eat out weekend day. Like, no,
Yeah.
no.
I mean, that type of thing happens, and then some of the things that like, so some of the other bits that I thought was kind of surprising is like just the group ridicule in front of the toy store.
Yeah.
That's something that's like, huh, like really, people, they're just showing the ugliness of everyone in this holiday season. And that's not even just like an exaggerated thing. Like, yeah, that happens. Like people will just have group ridicule. I think it's gotten better now, but for adults, it absolutely is just like when you're back at the playground and it's like someone
Yeah.
makes fun of the other person. Okay, go ahead and laugh and ridicule, point and laugh. Haha.
I think that that's a result of it not being something that's for them. Like every time I've done like a late night release for like a video game or like waiting in line for a drop of something and it's people that are buying it for themselves and they're like stoked about it, there's always like good what's the word? Just good morale in line, you know, but not in situations where it's like oh, you're stupid. The fact that the retail workers like just laughed at the dude, like they did, that guy deserved to get punched in the face. Like Chris
Oh
Parnell
yeah,
was very punchable in that
absolutely.
situation. Like, is it okay to punch him? No, but did he deserve it? Probably.
Yeah, I certainly agree on that one. That would be one of those like McDonald's like flip out incidents. Like, okay, I can see why, but a lot of times that stuff just doesn't happen. A lot of times, like us poor retail workers who have lived the life and suffered many days and many nights. It's just, yeah, I I I'm okay with fuck. I'm okay with fighting back if the customer is being just completely volatile and aggressive and mean. Like I just don't like that. I'm okay. I'm a pretty easy person to get along with. I'll be nice to you. You know, like I'll be nice to you even if you're not nice to me. But if you start getting aggressive, it's like, okay, fine. You know what? Gloves are off. Let's do this.
Throw down. I love it. I love that that's your I love that that's your feeling. Like there's a reason you don't work in retail anymore.
I've spent too much passive aggressive energy that I think it's all gone. So it would just go straight to aggression. So
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I don't put myself in that. I have a lot of patience with people. Um, I don't have a lot of patience for being rude. So
Have you
that's
like I don't know if, and this is completely off topic, total squirrel. Have you like been in a retail store lately and be like, I if I had no money, I couldn't do this job. Like
yeah, like
just such a
every
retail workers are heroes now because people aren't just ridiculey, they're violent and they have phone
uh,
cameras and they're gonna call your manager.
fast
And
food. I mean, geez,
all of it,
I
all of it. These people are heroes. Heroes
Dollar
without
General.
capes.
Dollar Tree or Dollar General stores are another store that I'm like, oof. Dollar Tree for sure. Like I feel sorry for those workers because not only is it like I've heard shitty company to work for, they just don't treat you right, but the people coming in, oh, they don't want to be there either, and they're just trying to get out of there. And like the poor person behind the register is just like, uh, another 8 hours of this.
The same person that's stocking the shelves, blowing up the balloons, filling the coolers, and yeah, no, it's a
Exactly,
heck of a gig,
exactly.
man. It's a heck of a gig. More power to all those that can actually do that. You know, shout out, extra merry fucking Christmas to you.
So
Um,
speaking of some extra Merry fucking Christmas, there's some nice holiday festivity stuff that happens between Arnold and a reindeer. And then guess what? He beats the shit out of it. He punches it and then gets drunk with it afterwards.
dude,
Where
I had to
was
exert dominance on this animal, and then we became friends.
I was so surprised that Arnold just slugged that fucking animal. And I was just like, "Oh my god.
I
I
mean,
want action
show
in
it.
this. I don't know
He
if
had
I
to
want it
remind it
by
that he was the Terminator, and he could execute that reindeer.
normally I've got a pretty thick skin to that stuff, but I was like pretty surprised by that. So
More or less surprised that he set Phil Hartman's house on fire accidentally. Like that scene is always hilarious. And then the way Phil Hartman wrapped the present, like this was under our tree the whole time in Turbo Man wrapping paper. Like what happened to the surprise? Like
yeah.
when you got like the present that you were really after on Christmas, was it wrapped in the paper that showed what it was, or was it like hidden behind something a la a Christmas story? Like, oh no, look behind the oh, because your parents wanted to see the joy. Phil Hartman didn't want to see the joy in his kid's face, just on the neighbor ladies.
I'm sure what you're saying is accurate. I wouldn't know for my personal experience. So, but um when it comes to Christmas gifts, since we're on the topic, I want to talk about some Christmas toys. And there's some hot Christmas toys that have happened over the years, and I want to play a little game.
Ooh,
What's the better toy, Turbo Man or that popular toy? So we'll go back a little bit, and we'll just kind of do this like kind of quick, rapid fire. But Turbo Man or Barbie in 1958?
um, for me or in general?
Whatever you think.
For me, no. The impact, huge. Like, not many people know what Turbo Man is, but what do you think? Are you a Barbie guy or are you a Turbo Man guy?
I think Barbie would probably win in my book because there's just more stuff that it does, that it comes with, that it can accessorize with. So I feel like as a toy, even though I don't have girls, I feel like that would just be the better toy overall for all children. So that's where my vote would go for Barbie.
Okay.
All right, now going up in the timeline, what about in a little toy in 1974? I'm sure you've played with one of these before, but the Rubik's Cube or Turbo Man?
Turbo Man. Turbo
Really?
Man, hands down. I don't understand the Rubik's Cube as a toy for kids. Like, all it is a reason to cheat at something at a young age. Take the stickers off, put the stickers back on. No, no, no. Because
Mm.
nobody in my household was like, oh, this is the way it works. There's like, here, play with this pain in the ass square.
I've enjoyed a Rubik's Cube quite a bit, so I'll actually have to go with Rubik's Cube over this. I've
Oh.
never I've never completed one, at least honestly, but
Do you know?
maybe
Do
one
you
day.
understand the mechanics?
Yes.
I've never been schooled on the mechanics of it, so I'm a no. I'm a hard no on Rubik's Cube.
Apparently, you don't even necessarily need to look at. I've never attempted this, but apparently, you don't even need to look at the Rubik's Cube. You just have to do a certain pattern X amount of times, and it will be completed. So I don't know.
Hey,
Mathematics is
it's
a is
like
a fun.
Pac-Man. You just follow the pattern.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. So going on to the next toy, we're going up just a little bit from 1974 to 1982, the year I was born, with the Cabbage Patch Doll or Turbo Man.
I have a very odd Cabbage Patch Doll story, and a reason that I am anti Cabbage Patch Doll. So when I was a kid, like many kids, I'm like, I want a baby brother. And so for Christmas, what did I get? A fucking Cabbage Patch.
Interesting.
I was like, this isn't a brother. What is this? So
Cabbage Patch was unisex, right? I mean
it
that
was. I
was.
mean, it was a boy Cabbage Patch, but it was not a brother. It was not a
I'm sorry,
brother.
Mark.
And going back on it, I didn't have to share my toys with anybody. Nobody broke my shit. Like, all of this good. But I'd have to say Turbo Man would have been cooler to be my little brother under the tree than a Cabbage Patch Doll.
I would agree. I would
Sweet
agree.
sentiment. Not as cool though.
How long did you actually play with that Cabbage Patch Doll?
I don't have any. It had to be like when I was like 2 or 3. I do not have any memories of playing with it at all. I just remember
Okay.
getting it and it not being a little brother. So I would guess very little time.
Hmm. Okay. So going up into the timeline again, 1989, we actually did a movie review about this particular toy and a game that was associated with it. But 1989, Nintendo came out with the Game Boy. So for me, hands down, Game Boy, even though I never had one, freaking sweet. Oh, you've got one. Oh, check that
Oh,
out.
it's
That's
it's
awesome.
even the sound.
Nice. Fantastic.
Oh, the sound. Just so much nostalgia, so much happiness, so much Game Boy.
And you
Game
could
Boy,
play with that thing for
hands down
hours.
over Turbo Man.
Yeah, for sure. So going up from 1989, we're going into another decade here, but we're going to 1995. Very similar type of toy, Buzz Lightyear. So Buzz Lightyear versus Turbo Man, which is the better toy?
Buzz has wings. Buzz has wings.
Turbo Man has a jetpack.
Buzz has a laser.
Buzz is an idiot.
I mean, the Turbo Man that they got for the parade has deep brain hemorrhaging. So he's probably an idiot too.
I like Buzz Lightyear a lot more than Turbo Man. Actually, Overall, like, well, I think we'll kind of see like how Turbo Man actually plays off on all this
Hang
stuff.
on.
But
I have a question. I have a Buzz Lightyear related question, a quandary to give you here. Better casting for this movie, Tim Allen or Arnold Schwarzenegger
as the dad,
as the dad?
I mean, I think it would make sense if it was Tim Allen. Tim Allen probably would have been better.
Like this is almost the Santa Claus, except he doesn't turn into Santa. He turns into
Yeah,
Turbo Man.
yeah. I would have been fine with Tim Allen, and he was like right there at like Home Improvement and shit.
Oh
So
yeah, no,
yeah.
he was hurling his brains out in the
I,
90s.
I didn't get that shit. I really didn't understand that. It's like that's like what Lumpy sounded like in the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Yeah,
I think that'll be like a new thing for
it's
ongoing episodes.
the
Like
Lumpy
every
Award.
episode,
The
we'll
Lumpy
talk
Award.
about the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Oh,
Oh fuck. All right. So, do you agree? Buzz Lightyear better toy?
I mean, yeah, no. Buzz got sequels. Turbo Man, not so much. Actually,
Okay.
I take that back. There is a Jingle All the Way too.
There is with Larry the Cable Guy, right?
Oh man, they're like, what franchise doesn't matter that we could put this guy into? Wait, I got it.
Ta-da! Well, speaking of ta-da, we're gonna go up 1 year to 1996. The Tickle Me Elmo, which was like a hot Christmas toy. What's the better toy, Tickle Me Elmo or Turbo Man?
Tickle Me Elmo is weird. It's just basically a doll with a that shakes.
But
Um,
Elmo's so cute though, right?
I'm
Like, I
not
mean,
an
that
Elmo
has
fan.
to
Elmo is my least favorite Muppet. And he's technically not a Muppet, but either way, my least favorite of all of the Sesame Street characters
really.
is Elmo. Yes, hands down.
Hmm.
Hands
We might need
down.
to have a separate episode about this,
We
but
could do a Sesame Street and we could do a puppet based movie and TV
yeah,
episode.
we should. We should. But
Yeah, no.
um,
My
I'll,
least
I'll say
favorite monster from Sesame Street.
I'll say Tickle Me Elmo because my least favorite puppet Muppet from Sesame Street was Telly. I thought he was the worst, but Tickle Me Elmo I thought was cute. I figured like Turbo Man, he's cool looking. You got the jetpack, but going up against cuteness, I think toys as a whole, cute sells, and that will sell more to everyone. So I would say that Tickle Me Elmo wins for that.
I think Tickle Me
But
Elmo was the last, like one of the last major knockdown drag out for this. And if you look at, well, I mean, it came out the same year that this movie did, and there were just as many fights
yeah,
over it, like very, very parallel in their popularity, fictional
well,
versus real life.
during that time, I think this movie was made at the perfect time because there was another toy, 1997, the Tamagotchi was another
It
hot
was,
Christmas toy.
it was.
So
And
Tamagotchi or Turbo Man?
I never got the Tamagotchi thing. I never got it
Neither
because I
did
had a
I.
Game Boy, and my Game Boy was way fucking better. But now I see where Tamagotchi has evolved. And if you look at the impact on society that had, that was a check it every day. You create a habit, you are nurturing or growing something kind of thing, right? That was electronic. Now you have all of these games for your phone that you get bonuses and do better when you check it every day. And now it's monetized. Like Tamagotchi has begat like Clash of Clans and all of these crazy like Animal Crossing and all of these like insane franchises now, all because of a little fucking keychain.
Yeah. I will say though that Turbo Man I think will win out for
Oh,
me
hands
on
down.
this one.
Turbo Man would shoot it from his like arm blaster.
So one more year up. We're going to
Oh,
1998, and cute does sell, and this was for sure cute. At least that's what a lot of people thought. The Furby. What about the Furby versus Turbo Man?
I have memories of wanting to like burn a Furby. Like I have three younger sisters who were all right in that. Oh, we'll get him a Furby. It'll be great. and
Ooh,
it is just the worst. It's the worst.
it is a cute toy though. I mean, it certainly is a cute toy.
Yeah, no, it's a possessed toy that's really annoying.
A
It's
lot of
it's
toys now that look exactly like Furbies are just like, oh, okay, that's just a toy. So it's so strange that that toy was the one that caught fire and was just like, oh my God, everyone's got to get one of these for Christmas.
dude. I mean,
But I
it was
didn't.
so popular that it's spoofed now. Like on
Yeah.
Bluey, there's Cheddar Max. That was a reference for people who have children between the ages of 2 and like 6. But you know, like they're even talking about it now, and they give it the same grief. That is just annoying and loud, and wish it came with an off switch. That's something Furby didn't have, was an off switch. That's why it had to die.
Oh, really? I never had one and I
You had
never
to take the
really.
batteries out.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we're going to end with the last kind of known Christmas toy fiasco, which is in 2001, the year I graduated from high school. Bratz dolls. Bratz dolls or Turbo Man?
Turbo Man, but Bratz dolls continued to be like a very niche, very popular thing.
I mean, they did get mentioned in the bar. Well, they weren't mentioned, but they were referenced in
They
the
were
Barbie
referenced.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty smart.
Yeah, it was
I
clever.
thought that
It
was
was
pretty
clever. But
smart. But man, I think that we've all felt in a lot of these toy releases the fervor that happened in Jingle All the Way. And I love that it's captured from a pop culture perspective. Like, but out of all these, does this capture your favorite Christmas toy?
I mean, I never really got a Christmas toy that was like top notch. So
Hmm.
I'm the wrong person to ask for this stuff. And it's I'm not trying to be like Christmas sucks. Like no, I mean I had as good of a Christmas as I thought Christmas could be. In comparison to my kids now, my wife is fantastic at making a big deal about holidays and making it special. Now I get excited about Christmas and it's like, oh, cool. This is what Christmas can be like. But that just wasn't me. So I didn't get a lot of toys, and I because of my choice in toys, there wasn't like one toy that was like, oh, I gotta get this. It was just like, oh, I really like that. I really like that. But nothing that like I will sell my soul for this Wolverine action figure. Like, no, not really. Like I was, oh, it'd be cool if I got that. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah. No, I tried with this, I tried to narrow it down before the podcast. Like, man, was there anything that I was just like, I need this one thing? And it wasn't like an action figure because, when we were kids, like everything was so many, like so many different turtles, so many different He-Man or whatever the hell, right? But I think that like video games were it for me, like the fucking Game Boy. I I think I played that thing until it died and they had to get me another one, like multiple times. Like I wasn't the
That I
kid
would
that
say
broke
that's a
their Game
fair.
Boy. I was the kid that wore that bitch out.
I would say that's a fair thing. I didn't ask for this, but I did get one, and like I had an older brother. It was really more. It was for both of us.
Yeah.
I of course played it more, but the original NES Nintendo
Oh, dude.
system, like that was probably the best Christmas gift that I ever got. That was like falling under the toy category, right?
Yeah. No, I got it for my birthday and I didn't get it for Christmas. But yeah, I just video games in general, like Super Nintendo, all that. Like games were such a cool thing because you spent so much more time. I spent many more memorable hours with games than toys, though I enjoyed toys. Like, don't get me wrong, but as an adult, there's things that I buy that I like collect, and they're not the toys. Like some of them are, but they're mostly the video games. Like
Sure.
that's just instant nostalgia at any time. Plug it in and go. And that Game Boy sound that I tried to play into my microphone just every time gets me with just a
So I've got an important question to ask you. When it comes to Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, and Jingle All the Way, can you do this all day?
I can absolutely do this all day. Yes. I every year have to watch it. It's on the list of Christmas movies. And I mean, who doesn't need a little more Arnold for the holiday season? The question is, can you do this all day, or do you have a different Arnold movie that gets you in the holiday spirit?
I think the movie that gets me in the holiday spirit from Arnold is Terminator, because what better way to ring in the holidays than have a 12 gauge shotgun and just blast a few people, right? But in all seriousness, this particular movie, didn't watch it until I was 40, had no interest when I was younger to watch it. Watching it was surprised me. It was funny. It had a really good cast. Jake Lloyd's performance was really great, and I will say great. It was one of those things where you can believe that that's a kid actor, and he captured the essence of being a kid too. You know, it wasn't a kid trying to act and trying to be a kid, but still act. You know, he played it exactly how I think he should have. Um, when it comes to the overall ridiculousness of this movie, I think it's such a great nod to the time of like people are idiots and we do a lot of stupid shit to get toys. And whether it's right or wrong is irrelevant, but this is reality. And so they capture this on film, and I thought that was like freaking fantastic. So,
Mhm.
yes, I can absolutely do this movie all day. I'm glad that I didn't get into it until I was older so I can appreciate it more because I have a feeling if I watched it when I was younger, I never would have touched it again. I
Yeah.
might not have even wanted to do a podcast about movies because maybe the butterfly effect is that strong. But yeah, I can do this all day for sure. Good holiday movie and good funny movie. And there is a little bit of action in there too, but not an
Yeah.
action movie.
My only fear with this movie, and I'll tell you right now, is that in 10 years it'll be so irrelevant that nobody will watch it because nobody can identify with having to go out there and hunt the toy because the internet's here. So they do it from home on their phone and they just click. There's no interaction or socialization of it, right? It's not going from store to store to store to store.
Are you really worried about it being irrelevant though? Like I think that there's some movies that will always stay in our zeitgeist and also just like our catalog because it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Like he is the guy from our childhood and growing
Mhm.
up. Now, granted, there's some movies that he came out with later that are kind of forgettable, but at the same time, it's just like if you're an Arnold fan and you enjoy his movies, you'll continue to watch it, and I think it'll still continue to be relevant because that spirit of greed during the holidays will never go away. I think that'll stay. Unfortunately, that'll stay for forever.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of a nice reminder of like, hey, it doesn't have to be this way. But just so you know, humans are assholes. And I think it was the Terminator once again showing that it's in our nature to destroy ourselves as humans. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
why I can do this all day.
What a tie back that was. You're a professional.
But that wraps up this episode. I hope you're all having a great holiday season, and I hope you're enjoying some of the festiveness that we're talking about in our movies. But until next time, this is Dan, the part time Avenger. That's Mark, the Resident Jedi.
Bring joy, not destruction, apparently. Love each other this holiday. And I hope you got what you wanted from Santa.
We'll be back.